Hi, welcome to T-Minus Retirement, the podcast where we help launch your retirement into orbit. I am Jay Cole.
And I'm Dustin Watts.
This is going to be part 2 of our Retiring Early series. And this video is going to focus more on some of the pitfalls of retiring early and just some things to think about before pulling the trigger on that.
Might not be all it's cracked up to be.
No. And the first pitfall that we wanted to talk about is simply that it's just not right for you, or it's not suitable just for your current living situation. The common one would be that you retire early and you're just bored and there's nothing to do. Your spouse is still working, so you can't travel with them or spend time with them. And that definitely does take a toll.
Yeah, you could find yourself thinking it's a great idea going into it. And then once you pull that trigger, it's like, oh man, I don't have the same camaraderie as I had. I'm not part of a team. I'm not being productive. So could not be a great situation and probably not great for your health.
No. And even if you didn't save that much, then that's a problem too, because now you're either struggling to make ends meet or you'll eventually have to go back to work just to kind of supplement that income.
Well, and nobody wants to retire early and then be strapped.
Yeah.
So biggest thing is you need to, if you're going to think about doing this, is you need to be prepared for it. Online, when you see people doing this kind of thing, retiring early, and I think we in our last video described that as being, in your 40s, late 40s, early 50s. A lot of people online, they go and live in a van and go travel around, and they're always being busy. But that's probably not the majority of people. If you retire early, you're probably not going to go play golf every single day.
Yeah.
So you need to at least have some type of hobby, something to keep you busy, so you don't go a little crazy.
Well, another problem too is maybe that your spouse isn't on board with it. If you're home all day and you're bugging your spouse too much, they might call us and say, "Hey, get so-and-so back to work somehow. He's driving me crazy."
That's something you're gonna have to see another professional for. But
Yeah.
The next one is really the healthcare issue, and that's a big thing because most people get their health insurance through their employer. So a pitfall of retiring early is everything's on you. Your income's on you. Your health insurance is on you, and especially if you're retiring in your 40s, let's say. Depending on your situation, mind you, you're going to have to be fronting the bill for your health insurance. And I don't know if many of you have looked at the prices of health insurance if you're having to go and get that on your own. Let's even say without a government type of subsidy, it's not cheap, and you need to be planning for that in the ways we talked about in the first episode, like an HSA. Include that in your budget, because that can really get out of hand. And ultimately, you don't want a situation like a health emergency to derail your whole early retirement.
Yeah. The other thing too, and we touched on this a little bit as well in the last video, is, if you only have IRA money and you're making pre-59.5 withdrawals, not only is it taxable income, but then you've got that IRS penalty that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
And in some cases, state penalties too, just depending on what state you live in.
Well, and some of you, if you search around the internet, there are a few ways to get out of that penalty, but there's a lot of rules around them. We're not even going to get into that.
Right, yeah, that's a topic maybe more for your advisor.
Yeah, so we're not going to touch on that, but in general, you need to be 59.5, and nobody wants to pay the government a 10% penalty, and in the state of California, 2.5%.
Exactly.
Just to get access to your own money before 59.5. That's why the brokerage account or some other type of savings account is going to be vital. So the next one is really in lines of, one of the pitfalls is you're going to be drawing down assets for a longer period of time, and that it just can cause some issues as far as the longevity of your account. And a lot goes into that because your withdrawal rate and your rate of return and all of those things. But you need to think that money has to now last you 40 years, maybe, something like that. And so if you're taking out of accounts a little bit too much at the beginning, that can really draw down your assets. And that's something to where you could find yourself 15, 20 years down the road being like, oh man, I really, maybe I was drawing a little bit too much because I was wanting to travel all over prior to really getting my plan in place or getting my whole early retirement plan in place. And so you need to think about that. You don't want to get into a situation down the road where it's now too late. You can't re-enter the workforce. You can't make up for those years where you've been drawing down those assets. Mm-hmm. So things have to really go according to plan, and you need to be prepared.
So it sounds like we're saying all these negative things about retiring early, and you might be thinking, well, I want to retire early, so what should I do? Does it mean I can't retire early?
Yeah.
We're not necessarily saying that. I think this is our last point, but I would just say maybe just find some middle ground. Whether that be trying to change a position within your firm where you're not having that much work or you don't have to commute that much. Or even just trying to see if you can do some work remote, if that's possible.
Well, because I would say the majority of people that we encounter who want to retire early, let's say, is, they have a hour plus commute and traffic both ways, and they just get tired of that. And that is completely understandable. That gets very old and it's just adding to your overall day. But maybe just a small change in life, a new position, remote work, maybe working a day from home or something like that, if that's an option, could totally change your outlook on where you're at and just your happiness at your current position. Mm-hmm. And realistically, being flexible is going to be to your benefit, just because if you can make a change like that, or maybe if you work a couple extra years in a different position, that can make all the difference. And maybe you can retire in a much better position, maybe not as early as you once wanted to, but just in a more solid, sound position. That way you really set yourself up for a better retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just definitely say be flexible with that. And there's always going to be a middle ground to find.
And definitely work with some type of advisor that's going to help guide you along the way, because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come up in those situations, and you're going to need a good sounding board.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this 2-part series on retiring early and maybe some of the pitfalls of retiring early. If you did like it, please like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.